Welcome to I Change the Narrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. Before we start the conversation, I want to ask our guests to briefly tell us about yourself and the work that you're involved in that lends itself to the topic or the lived experience. We can start with Brennan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryn Steele. I am currently residing in Memphis, Tennessee. I am a math teacher by day. I teach middle school math. But outside of that, I recently founded a movement called Breathe Brother, based on the journal Breathe, a guided healing journal for Black men. So that's kind of what brought me to this conversation.
Thank you. Doug.
I'm Douglas Reed from Black Men Heal. I'm actually retired out of the military, retired out of the federal prisons. Just here to talk about this narrative and changing the narrative concerning Black men and just make an impact. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much. And Daryl.
What's happening, family? Again, I'm Daryl Green, born and raised here in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a professor at Morgan State University in the School of Social Work. And my company is called Deep Forgiveness. And so we're trying to heal one person, one family, one person, one family, one community at a time with healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness. And so I'm excited, super excited, Sister Williams, to be a part of changing the narrative platform today. And super excited to be with these other amazing men, warriors, soldiers that's in the struggle.
Yes. So glad to have you all on the show. We thank you for being invested in the cause. Today's topic is the forgiveness factor, Black men practicing their wellness. And before we get into the conversation, I want Daryl to tell listeners about his story, as it is a powerful story. And after you hear the story, I don't think that many of us could walk in the shoes of Daryl. So Daryl, take it away.
Yeah, so for the fellow guests on the show and also the listening audience, Sister Williams, thank you. But so my story was, as I mentioned, the name of my company is called Deep Forgiveness, but it was born out of a tragedy, right? Where my younger brother, who was 6'5", 255, he won a shot put and discus his junior year, 3.5 GPA. His dream was to go to the Olympics, and great kid, a scholar and an athlete. And he went bowling, y'all. And he checked his shoes, he used their shoes, and a 14-year-old kid went behind the counter and took his shoe, and an altercation broke out. And as a result of that, my brother guffed him up in a bowling alley, management threw the other kid out. That 14-year-old kid went home and armed himself. And as my brother went to leave, he waited for him, and he stabbed him. And he died 4 days later here in Baltimore, Maryland, shock trauma. I was a junior at the time in school in Carolina. And when I got the word that something had happened to my brother, I came home with revenge and retaliation, y'all. I came home to kill him, kill his mother, his father, his sister, his brother, the dog, the goldfish. I wanted everybody to feel the same pain, the same hurt that I felt. And so but he was 14 years old and he got sentenced to life in prison. And in Maryland, life means your natural life. That means you're not getting out. And it took me about two decades, y'all, to work on me, begin to heal, begin to think about the young man and how he was only 14 years old. And begin to think about his family, begin to think about, that situation. And then I went to court after he served 25 years and testified on his behalf for his release. wanting for him to get a second chance. And so, i.e., we forgave him. It kind of blew the judge away, the state's attorney. It just blew everybody away that we would forgive him. But but now that he's home, him and I now work together. What I said to him in the courtroom, y'all, was this. I asked the judge, could I shake his hand? I'm trying to paint a Picasso for you guys and listening audience. I asked the judge, could I shake his hand? And the bailiff, the sheriffs, Brendan, were like, oh no, don't you watch True TV? You're not getting nowhere near him. And I said, well, sir, you must not have heard me speak for the last 45 minutes. And I said, I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to ask the judge. But I needed that for me. And the judge said, if neither man opposes. And I went behind those little swinging doors in the court, Sister Williams, and he had a three-piece suit on, y'all. He had shackles around his wrists, around his waist, and around his ankles. And as I approached him, there was two bailiffs on both of my sides, and I shook his hand. And I said to him, I was very emotional, and by me getting emotional, he was emotional. And I said to him that you've been known for taking life, so now let's you and I go and save some lives. And I knew that, I knew that the hand that he used to shake my hand with was the one that he used to kill my brother. Mm. But I needed that for me. I needed that piece for me. And so now, y'all, we work together. We speak all over the country, internationally and globally, on healing, reconciliation, and forgiveness. And I'll say this, Sister Williams, thanks for allowing me to start off. But hurt people, right? Hurt people. And I had to begin to look through a different set of lenses. Instead of lenses of revenge and retaliation, I had to look through lenses of healing, lens, reconciliation, and also forgiveness. And so thank you guys for listening to that piece. But listen, I'm free now. I'm free. And so we can talk more about it.
Wow, that is an awesome story. Like I said, I don't know if I could have done that. How about you guys? What is your take on that story, Brennan?
Yeah, no, that's powerful, Daryl. I appreciate you sharing that. I think about this last statement that you said, particularly about I'm free now, and like the freedom that comes in forgiveness, and how that is so connected to our personal healing. I think me personally, I don't know if I'm at the level where I could have done that, and so I commend you on that. But I think that we often forget about, like, the forgiveness piece is not always, it's about the other person, but it's also like allowing us to have that freedom as well. And like helps us in our healing, helps us in our development and personal growth as well. So that's huge to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So my question is, my thought, I was researching this, and I read that Black men resist the idea of forgiveness for two reasons. Here are the two reasons. It seems that it's contrary to the idea of justice. And secondly, it seems like it's an action born of weakness. What weigh in on that? It doesn't matter who anyone can go.
I will say this. Listen, we're not taught that. We're not. I'm in Baltimore City, and the piece was for us is it's an eye for an eye. You hurt somebody in my family, okay, y'all about to feel the wrath, right? And so, that's not the street code to we're going to forgive. I'm gonna turn the other cheek. No, because what you're taught, if you turn the other cheek, they gonna punch you in the other cheek. Because you didn't do anything to stop them from hurting your family the first time. So that gives them carte blanche to come back and do it again. And so I forgiveness was not even a part of my vocabulary when this thing kicked off, right? And then you're right, Sister Williams. In some cases, folks see that as a sign of weakness, but I would counter argue that it's not. It's actually a source of freedom, and it's a source of strength that you have the power enough to create your own narrative. The heck what anybody else says, but to create your own narrative of how I'm going to carry this piece out, right? And so it's I said if I would have killed this guy, all right, if I would have followed the street law, my mom would have lost not one son, but she would have lost two.
Yeah.
And so just when did this madness stop? Just when did this peace? And so forgiveness, man, and I need to listen to audience to understand this. Forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is for you, right? Sometimes we may not even get to forgiveness, right? You may begin to heal. You may begin to reconcile. You may never. Forgiveness is this. It's like this utopia. It's this land of happiness, pure pleasure. We want no more. I mean, that's the highest pinnacle, right? You may never get to that piece. And so I would argue that forgiveness is the highest form that you can get to, right? Of healing when you're able to forgive. Some folks say, I forgive you, but I ain't gonna never forget.
Right. Yeah. Doug, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I would, and I apologize for the connection.
No problem.
We still love you, Doug.
Just my brother Daryl talking about that forgiveness, and I told you guys I spent 25 years working in the federal prison. And I remember after I retired, not really understanding mass incarceration, not when I was in, but there was a couple significant events through my tenure. And I remember when I got out, and I actually met Van Jones. He was dealing with the Redemption Project. That was very strong in regards to forgiveness. And the thing that got to me, and even I heard one of the gospel artists, you stated that first you got to learn to forgive yourself. And then when you're able to do that, you're able to move forward with a lot of different things. Working in that federal prison, I didn't understand initially the impact of mass incarceration. And I stated to Van Jones when I was talking to him that really I had no idea, because it was all about a check and it was all about me making a career. And the forgiveness came when I went back and I studied, the Reconstruction years, the Black Code, and I wanted to make a difference. And actually, like real talk, I had to forgive myself in dealing with that, because I felt like, be honest, like I was the oppressor, if you understand what I'm saying. Working in that kind of environment. So when I finished my tenure, I made it a point to, and I started my own nonprofit called Synergy Reform. I traveled around the country with a young lady doing the redemption project and some other things in regards to the effects of things they got to do. So forgiveness, and I've done a lot of good things in my life, and I've done a lot of bad things in my life. And when we're able to forgive ourselves to move forward and only understand that, and I have to go to scripture, because, that's where I get my help from. When I get on my bended knee and I ask for that forgiveness, I got to be able to pick myself up and go forward, only because, I know it's a healing process. And even the people that, let's say came against me, who am I to, it says you have to get the plank out of your own eye before you can actually move forward. Who am I to hold any kind of unforgiveness in my heart or bitterness? Because I am somebody that keeps things positive. I am somebody that want to change the narrative. So in order to do that, I got to make sure I'm in the right place. And I appreciate Brother Dor you sharing that story, because that's what
Yeah.
it takes.
Yeah.
It takes that amount of forgiveness just to move forward. So,
And,
like
and
again, I said, forgive me for the for the phone, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about that. So I appreciate you listening.
Thank
And,
you.
and it's interesting, sisters, Doug, what you just mentioned, man. Self forgiveness is one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
That's one of the toughest things to do is to forgive ourselves, right? I mean, one of the toughest things. Now, listen, the kid who, Brother Brennan, Brother Doug, and Sister Williams, the kid who killed my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had forgiven him, but he's still struggling with forgiving himself, right? He's still struggling with forgiving himself, and so it's a constant piece, and so self forgiveness, man, and what I tell folks is stop dying inside of unforgiveness, because that's
Yeah.
what we do. We're dying inside constantly of unforgiveness. We're holding on to some stuff that God has already forgiven us for.
Right.
And so, let me backtrack a second. I don't take any credit for the work that I'm doing. I hate if I offend any of your listeners' audience, is that God gets all the glory, right? And whatever how you believe in your God is awesome too, but God gets all the glory for this, because if it would not been for Him, I would not be in this space. But unforgiveness, whew, that's a powerful thing.
Right. So, Brennan, what made you give us the story behind Black your book? What is it? Black Men Breathe?
It's
Sorry.
Breathe. Yeah, it's Breathe, a guided healing journal for Black men.
Okay.
And so I think I'm thinking about the things that we're talking about and how they were connected and kind of the motivation behind writing the journal. But I think it was initially onset by my own personal journey, and a big piece of it was forgiving myself for like some of the darkness of my past, and so. Like something that I tell brothers that I talk to is like, you're not your latest mess up. You're not your biggest regret. Like you're beyond those things. And like that idea of forgiving yourself for those things. But specifically with the journal, it started the right after George Floyd was murdered, and I had been going through my own like process and counseling for a couple of years, and I just was thinking about all my brothers that didn't have kind of the same experience with counseling and same tools to kind of process not only their personal trauma of their own lives, but also like this racial trauma that we live in our society. And so that was kind of how the journal came about. But like since then, it has kind of spawned like kind of I guess grew out of that and like meshed into more than that. And I've had brothers talk to me about getting to some of the prompts in the journal and realizing that they need to forgive themselves, they need to forgive their fathers, they need to like do a lot of other things that they weren't prepared to do coming into the journal. So yeah, this conversation is definitely on point with it.
Right. Thank you for that. Now, in your opinion, in you guys' opinion, is it when you're forgiving, does it entail ignoring the issues?
Never.
No. No.
Okay.
And the reason why I say never, because I mean, even with Black Men Heal, we talk about the stigma of needing help. If you ignore the issue, only thing you're going to do is you're going to carry that with you, no matter what. And I mean, just like I'm telling you, even with this phone. So I'm not giving 100% if I never do it. I'm not being myself. I'm not being the person that how I was created. I mean, and uh, we all want to be operating at our full potential. So we can't put that stuff on our backs and hold it against any individual. So we have to be in a place of healing. We have to be in a place of making sure we're able to forgive somebody to actually move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brennan.
And I think just to add on to that, like forgiveness is actually acknowledging the issue and then like kind of dealing with it head on, in my opinion. And I think that if we ignore the issue, like that becomes like this. I don't think it's full forgiveness in my opinion, but it also has got like this pride attached to it, that you're not wanting to, like in a way, be humble and actually recognize the issue. And I'm thinking specifically about like forgiveness in my life has been something like forgiving, like the ways in which I felt like my father wasn't there for me all the way. And it was like I want to ignore it and like not give him the satisfaction. But
Right.
like I've felt free since I have done that and like kind of talked to him and confronted him head on since my own process of healing.
Yeah, and I would say, again, hurt people, man. And I often, when I deal with fathers, Brendan, and we talk about the dying inside of unforgiveness, is that sometimes, man, we will some folks aren't ready, right? And it's okay that they're not ready, right? I may come to you and say, hey, listen, hey, please forgive me, or hey, listen, I forgive you, whatever. Some folks aren't ready for that, right? And it's okay. But as long as I've done what I need to do to move in that right direction, and again, if healing for me is just getting out of bed today, or if we're just taking a shower today, or calling and texting somebody and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. When I'm dealing with these fathers, and I call it father starvation, where the relationship or the lack of relationship that guys have had with their fathers or daughters have had with their fathers, I say to them, well, maybe he was doing the best he knew how.
Yeah.
I mean, when we look through those lenses of healing, maybe he was doing the best that he knew how, because you never know the relationship between your father and your grandfather.
Right.
Or your grandfather and your great grandfather, or your great grandfather and your great. This how far is this generational curse? How far does it go back? And so you can't really be a great father if I have not really seen that piece or had it or felt it. And the same with moms. And so, there's got to be a starting point, like an on-ramp, right?
Right.
An on-ramp to begin these conversations and having these difficult but courageous conversations about how do we move forward, right? How do we move forward? And listen, if I'm 1,000%, I try to be 1,000% transparent. Some days I still struggle, right? I still struggle because I work with the kid who killed my brother.
Right.
And sometimes he's in my passenger seat. I need you to get this.
Right.
He's in my passenger seat. And I look over at him and I get some wild thoughts, right? But the running joke is they're going to say, well, if something happened to me, they're going to know the last person I was with was you.
Right.
So they're going to come directly. And so forgiveness is just like NAAA for me, where you'll get to like the 8th or 9th step, and something will happen. You'll think of something would trigger, and you'll go back down to step 3, and you got to start all over. And so forgiveness is a process. It's a process, but it's a beautiful process. And I said, listen, man, if I can forgive the kid who killed my brother, this is a listening audience. If I can forgive the kid who killed my brother, surely you can forgive your neighbor who parked halfway in your driveway, or or one of your friends re-gifted something to you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we say don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. But I will tell you, until I truly forgave, then that was the only way that I was able to take my power back.
Mm.
Right? Because until you do that, that situation owns you. That person owns you.
Yeah.
Take your power back and move on towards the light. And so that's just the couple points I wanted to make.
Yeah.
If I can just make a comment in regards to that, because in the beginning, because I think we understand that it's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with that forgiveness piece or that person, we got to respect that space.
Yeah.
Just like you said, they may not be ready, but we have to respect that space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to give them the freedom that, like you said, not right now, but as long as we did what we were supposed to
Yes,
do,
sir.
which is the key. As long as we did that we were supposed to do in admitting our mistakes or the forgiveness or bringing it to the head. One thing about me, I was a teenage father at 17.
Mm.
And one of the things that I had to realize, and thank God for it, because what I ended up doing in my separation from my oldest son, I wrote him a letter to explain the circumstances.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Let him know the conditions that I was on or why things happened.
Yeah.
And not to say I did everything that I was supposed to do, but I wanted to bring it to light as far as what actually happened. And in the meantime, ask for forgiveness. And always
Mm.
say, I'll be there no matter what, no matter what you think or what you've heard. Always come to me as a source, and I'll be, like you said, I'll be transparent to tell you exactly the way it happened. But we
Right.
have to give them the space and understand that space. And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good. That's good. So, my next question, and I really want you to think about this. Why do you suppose forgiveness seems one directional for Black men? That's a hard one.
Let me tell who just came to mind.
Okay.
Um, I think it's so hard for us because of everything that the world, the media, everything has told us. So I think we don't take into account of how we were actually created and what we are. So anytime that we run into a situation, we believe not ourselves, but we believe what everybody else is saying,
Bingo.
and that causes a problem.
Mhm.
I think that causes a problem for us to really be in a position to move forward because of what everybody else is saying, what everybody is feeding to our ears. And like I said, one thing we have to know, we have to know our source. And I
Right.
say God is my source, Jesus Christ, but we have to know who our creator was and our source. And then when we get to a point of forgiveness and knowing that, you know, we can't cast the first stone.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that was just something that came to my mind real quick. And I'm pretty sure these intelligent brothers will explain even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the thing that I'm thinking on Doug's point is so I taught like 96, 97% of my students were Black boys for my first 2 years of teaching. I now teach co-eds, so I teach boys and girls. But I think that like those images, that socialization happens so young for boys. Like these are fifth graders through eighth graders that I'm teaching, and they're already like, I don't know, I'm weak if I try to apologize, or I'm weak if like I need to ask for forgiveness, or if I forgive someone else. So I think there's like these, like back to that first point of weakness with forgiveness. I think there are like all of these images, all of these things that our boys are socialized to believe, that then makes like forgiveness one directional, and that's like ingrained from these are 10-year-olds that I taught at the youngest, and so then it just keeps getting further and further ingrained the older you get, and so I think that on Doug's point, that I've seen that very anecdotally myself.
Yeah. I just think that, you know, it's the street code, it's the code, right? Like nobody. When I walk in a room, sometimes with this shirt on, deep forgiveness, right? When I walk in, I'm like folks look at me like I'm strange fruit, for lack of a better word. They look at me as if I'm crazy or I'm like a unicorn, right? I'm like, the unicorn is rare. I mean, it's like, we haven't seen one. And so when I do work around the criminal justice reform work, you know, they're used to having the lenses of an angry, you gotta be angry, why aren't you, like, no. But then what the media wants us to do, they want black folk are some of the most forgiving people in the world.
Yes.
We're the most forgiving people all over. Just like when you look at what happened in South Carolina, was it Dylan Roof who went in and shot all the folks up in the church, Emmanuel Church, right? And the very next day, they didn't even clean the sanctuary. But the very next day, here's someone from the media sticking a microphone into someone's face, asking, "Do you forgive him?"
Right.
No. Forgiveness is a process, right? And so, but we've never been taught that.
Yeah.
And we've been never taught, you know, it's always been this weakness piece. So when we're talking about one directional, right? Now let me just say this. They call me the forgiveness guy, right?
Right.
But forgiveness is a process. And Sister Williams, I will tell you right now, as I'm telling everybody, if a person come and smack me right now, guess what's going to happen? Brother Brandon, I'm going to smack them back even harder. I'm going to try to take their head off their shoulder.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about how we can heal.
Right.
How we may be able to reconcile, and maybe how we can, because forgiveness is a process, and it's always been where, you know, our folk we've got to always, you know, Sister Obama said, when they go low, we got to go high. Well, we always going high. We always. I mean, come on. I have a problem with that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Are you kneeling on my neck?
Yeah.
I felt every second.
Yeah.
Yes.
I felt every second of that. I was so emotionally done. And how do I heal from that? How do I, you know, and so it's this heavy piece, man. And so it's difficult to always balance the scales, right? But when we keep in mind that forgiveness is a process, and also that some folks, man, don't subscribe to it. And so that's why, you know, maybe we're not subscribing to that. Revenge and retaliation is what we're subscribing to. In some cases, not all, but in some cases.
Right. Yeah. There's a saying, you can't heal what you don't reveal.
Mama, you just said something there.
Well,
what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think that's 100% true. I think that part of I can only speak from my experience in this specifically, but my personal healing process and this continual process is still going to this day. I think that like I grew up with this kind of perfectionism mindset. And I grew up trying to be perfect in order to stuff the trauma that I dealt with. And I think moving into adulthood, the structures in which I was able to be like kind of continue to measure my worth against, whether it was grades, whether it was leadership positions, they weren't there anymore. Like in real life, as an adult, like it's bills, and that's where that's what you got to deal with. And it just kind of like I kept stuffing till I couldn't stuff anymore.
Right.
And I think I went to counseling for the first time. My counselor, like his process was like, we've got to dig through all of that and bring it all out, because like you're not going to get anywhere if we continue to doing the same process that you've been doing. I think that like it's nasty. It's not always pretty. It's not always enjoyable. But it's like that is the first process of healing, is like actually laying it out, saying the things that you felt, recounting those memories that you don't want to recount. And I think that like that is like you can't, like you're saying, you cannot heal unless it's revealed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes, you know, in my life, man, some things I don't. We compartmentalize things. We put things, we package it away, and we put it in a closet, never to reopen. Right? Some things that happened to me in my life, I just put it in a box and just push it. And I think that's why Brennan, why we're probably doing the work that we're doing now, right? Because it's almost like it's a self-healing piece by helping others to be able to move. And so, but I agree with you, Brennan, when we talk about, I often say it's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right? And we ain't gonna really find out what's happening until we get the core. But when you peeling back those onions, there's a lot of tears coming. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, right, that we're unpacking by trying to get to that core. You know, but we gotta, at some point, we've got to be able to deal with it. And that's why I kept using the piece of having those difficult but courageous conversations, right? With our sisters, with our wives, with our husbands, with our children, with our parents, you know, because I did this piece for the chiefs of police in Ohio, right? And there was a lot of pain there, because I asked them, all the chiefs of police, and they killing us in Ohio, you know, and I said, you know, looking through a different set of lenses, healing the relationship between the Black and brown community. How do we heal the relationship between the Black and brown community and the police? And why is my skin color weaponized against me before I even open my mouth? And but if we don't reveal that, right? If we don't have those conversations, then we're going to continue to be in pain. And so on a macro level of trying to get, you know, these chiefs of police to be able to feel me, right? And it was an emotional conversation, but it was very powerful for all that engaged. And these are all the chiefs of police in Ohio. And some of them were probably pissed off, but you know, when we talk about revealing what's happening, my experience as a Black man, and your experience as a white man is totally different. And so how do we heal? How do we heal without revealing? It's a tough piece, because some of our wounds are open, they're infested, there's pus pulling out. Now you want to talk to me about healing. When I got infection all through my body, and that's how I get up every morning as a Black man. And so it is, it's tough, y'all, to wear these shoes, man.
Right.
Sister Williams and sisters, y'all don't have it any easier, but it's tough.
Right.
You know, It's tough, man, but we got to keep talking about it and having those conversations. And I think once we do that, we'll be much better off. And we may not get to forgiveness, but we'll begin the conversation, Brendan, of healing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's just a quick extra. I think that what you're saying, I think about this compartmentalization and how much it is like a survival mechanism too.
Yes, come on. Yes, sir.
It serves us to an extent. And so it's just kind of like, it's hard sometimes to want to reveal things where it's like, what I've been doing has been working. But I think like back to your first point of like this freedom that we ultimately want to get to. I think that happens once you reveal, but you got to get to that point, like you're saying now. But like that was something I think about, something my brothers around me think about. It's just like I compartmentalize because it helps me deal with the world as a Black man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
So yeah, just wanted to add that piece right there.
Brennan, you said something earlier. You mentioned pride. I think for many of us, pride definitely does get in the way. But how do we begin to shake that off? Because to be honest with you, I mean, I struggle with the pride thing when it comes to apologizing and forgiving. And why? Why is that? Why is that pride? Why is that such a struggle?
Yeah. Man, I think every time that I've kind of tried to shake off the pride, it has been nothing but like God like dealing with me. Right. And I think in my community that's been the same. I actually think I just had a conversation with one of my brothers, and he like had a father that like walked out on them when he was younger, and he has over the course of our relationship kind of reconnected and tried to forgive and tried to do the healing with his father. And he's like, I'm never going to ask him for anything ever again. Like, I don't need anything from him. But at this point, he needed a place to stay. Like the Lord was like, yo, you got to ask your father. You got to ask your father. He's like, I don't want to. And I think that like, I don't know, like I think like that pride is he ended up doing it, and like that pride that he had started to cave a little bit. But I think that pride is such a strong force and a strong obstacle that like it requires divine intervention a lot of times, because like that pride for us is just kind of, we go back to this last piece of like just how we compartmentalize and how we keep all this stuff in. Like I think that even bolsters the pride even more, and then makes it harder to like let go of it. So every time that I've been able to get past pride, it's been like the Lord just continuing to knock it away, continue to humble me in different circumstances.
Yeah.
So I guess what you're saying, or what I'm gathering, that letting go of the pride is part of that processing of whatever has gone wrong or in that relationship between you and whoever. So in order to release that pride, I need to first process what has taken place between me and that other person. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely like that first step. I think that like pride also comes when you want to ignore, like we were saying before. And I think when you're processing, like it requires you to actually kind of lose some of that. And then I think that it gives you a different perspective. And so then like it takes a little bit more of the pride away. And so I think as you go through that step and those processes, that is how you can like knock off some of that pride.
Right.
With my father, it was like exactly what Daryl said. Like I had so much pride about forgiving him, so much like unforgiveness in my heart. And the first thing he said was like, my father died when I was 9. And so I didn't know how to be a father to you. And I was like, wow. Like, it's so much my pride and so much of my resentment like started to dissipate because I realized that he was doing the best he could, just like Daryl was saying. And I think there's still, of course, other things that we are working through now, but I think that was like a huge first step in terms of the pride and the unforgiveness and resentment that I had. So
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sister Williams, man. There's always 3 sides to every story, y'all. It's 3 sides. This is your side, my side, and the truth, right? Until we have those difficult but crazy conversations, we ain't gonna know. I'm only gonna know what my mama told me because that's who's raising me, right? I'm only gonna know what my daddy told me about my mama because that's who's raising me, right? But the pride piece is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse, man. I have really no connection with my last name, right? My last name is Daryl Green. I mean, it's Green, and I had no connection to any of my ancestors when it came to Green, right? And so the pride in me, I had to make that name mean something. Right, I had to make it mean something. I call my father, or my dad is my best friend now, right? But I called him Charles. I never called him Daddy. I call him by his name because that's what my mama called him, right? I didn't live with him. I lived with my mother, and so my father was there early on. He was there financially. Anything that I needed, anything I wanted, the whole deal. But we didn't have this whole close relationship. When mom was like, call your father and ask him. I'm like, I'm not calling you. Again, pride. I'm not calling you. I'm struggling. Pride. But it was only when my younger brother was killed, y'all, that I began to change that whole piece. And I would always tell my father that I loved him. I don't know how old y'all are, but back in the day, we used to have calling cards on campus, on college campus, with the regular phone, the pay phone, right? And I would have somebody. It was a stolen calling card, and I would call. And I called my father one time. I told him, look, I called him. I said, I love you, and he would always say, Sister Williams and Brendan, yeah, me too. And I called him back. I was like, won't you tell me you love me? I know you do. And so sometimes the piece doesn't come from top down, it comes from bottom up, right? In the teaching piece. And so now when we talk on the phone, it's I love you, I love you, I love you. He ain't gonna get off the phone. And then it's the generational piece because he wasn't this hugging guy. Right. He didn't come from that. Right. As your father said, Brennan, I lost my dad at 9. Yeah. I had to figure this thing out. And so now my father goes and, he would, shake his hand. You don't do that anymore. Because when he shook his hand, I pulled him in. And so now we just go straight for the hugs. But I would say this is that what's the end game, right? When we talk about pride, what's the end game?
What's the end game?
And once we figure out what the end game is, then we got our marching orders, Sister Williams. What's the end, Brennan? What's the end game? I got folks come to me all the time, for coaching pieces and all that, and I'm saying, look, y'all could have stayed home and argued and cussed and fussed, and y'all could have stayed at the crib. But if you come over to me, what's the end game? Right? What's the end game of us? I tell them, look, my therapist got a damn therapist. Okay? So everybody needs somebody to sit and rap to and talk to begin, as Brendan said, to be able to unravel this stuff, right? And that's the only way we're gonna be able to change the narrative on a larger scale. Brother Doug had one story about Van Jones and the Redemption Project. I got another story about Van Jones and the Redemption Project. I love that work You know what I'm saying? And we're able to help people to heal, right? And as long as we're able to do that, man, we all right. And I think your whole show today, Sister Williams, is about healing. Was it Breathe, a guide for healing Black men, right? Brother Doug, Black Men Heal. It's a major piece that we need right now, y'all.
Right.
It's a major piece. And see, what we don't do, Sister Williams, not enough Black men check each other's pulse.
That's good.
Just say, how you doing?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We rather talk about the game. We talk about who slammed on who. What shorty you gonna take out tonight? How you gonna get it? All this.
Mm-hmm.
No, instead of talking about what's really happening, man. And so, which inspired me to write my book, Deep Forgiveness: Stories of Healing, Reconciliation, Forgiveness. Look at that sharp guy on the back. Oh, look at that. But anyway, we gotta slow the bus down enough, Sister Williams, so I can hear Brendan, and Brendan can hear me. I can feel his pain. He can feel my pain, and have those courageous conversations.
Yeah, huge.
I'm sorry I talk too much, y'all.
No, it's okay.
I gotta. Yeah, I'm excited about how do we heal, man. So, and how do we forgive?
That's good. So, my takeaways are from this conversation is that on forgiveness decides and defines who you are. It frees you. It places you in control, allows you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it heals you. But most of all, it requires bravery.
Yes.
Yes.
You guys are brave. Especially, Daryl, in that situation with your brother. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess God felt like, you could handle this.
Mm.
And of course, I'm sure you went through at first.
Yeah.
But I think God saw fit for you to handle it. So I applaud you guys on your healing, on your forgiveness, on your bravery. And so it is about that time that I don't.
It's already.
Yes, I just want to honor your time. I thank you for contributing your thoughts and your ideas and for doing your part in changing the narrative. And lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. That means a lot to me. Is there anything you wanted to say before we get off of the show? Are there any last words that you wanted to say to our listeners? Brennan, I'll start with you.
I'm just very appreciative of this conversation. I echo and resonate with a lot of things that Daryl said. Just like the need for us to, as Black men, continue these conversations. And I feel like if you take anything away from this, is next time you're with your homies, your brothers, whoever those men are around you, like, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing? And like, just listen. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It has been uncomfortable for me in the past, but I think that the more we practice that, the more it gets less uncomfortable and helps us grow and heal as we need to. But definitely appreciative of being here today.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I just want to say thank you, Sister Williams, for allowing us to create this safe space for us, right? Because I think sometimes men don't feel safe. And we don't feel safe, we ain't gonna be vulnerable, right? I would say to folks to get some people around you, a network, your village, right? Even in your little bubble, that's gonna make sure that they check your pulse and that you're okay. For years, I was really prideful. I'm gonna do this myself, but what I have to realize is that I can't do it myself. Deep Forgiveness is a 501c3 organization. We're nonprofit. I would love to give the website, the numbers, all that stuff out. Sister Williams, am I able to do that?
Yes, you are.
So for your listening audience, we'll come to your church, your synagogue, your dining room table, your backyard, your family reunion, your colleges, your universities. We will come, and it's maybe next time, Sister Williams, when you have us on, I'll bring the young man who took my brother's life. He'll sit right beside me, and we can really peel back those layers of the onions, right? But if anybody wants to know more about deep forgiveness, go to our website at www. It's Deep Forgiveness, all one word, DEEP forgiveness, all one word.com. We need volunteers. We need donations. We need all that stuff. I stepped out on faith in God's favor, y'all. I left corporate America to do this, and God had another assignment for me. And once I got over every 2 weeks I'm scratching my arm because every 2 weeks they're gonna put some money in my account. Those days were over. Right. And so now what we do, man, is that we are the conduit to help move you from being in bondage to being free. And forgiveness, you are one decision away from changing the rest of your life. Yeah. You're one decision away. But understand that it's a process. I should hope that I said something today for you, Brother Brendan, Brother Doug, Sister Williams, that resonated, that made sense. But bring us in, y'all. Bring us in, and we gonna come in. We gonna bring the fire.
Yeah.
But you can email us at info at deepforgiveness.com. You can call us directly in our office at 443-739-3260. That's area code 443-739-3260. Website www.deepforgiveness.com. Info at deepforgiveness is our email. Now you got more information in the FBI. Reach us.
Yes. Brennan, please give your contact information as well as how listeners can purchase your book.
Yes, so we are primarily on Instagram. So that's at Breathe Brother, BROTHA. That can get you involved and put in with the journal. And then you can get the journal on Amazon. Again, it's Breathe, a guided healing journal for Black men. Breathe, a guided healing journal for Black men. So between those two avenues, you can reach me, DM me on Instagram directly, or just grab the book and dive in.
Brennan, Sister Williams, is there a way that you can connect all of us? Yes. I want to hook up with you, Brennan. Sister Williams, I want to hook up, and Brother Doug, I know you out there, brother. We feel your spirit. Yes. I want to be able to hook up, man, and come to your state, your town, your country, somewhere near you. You get my book off the website.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming again on the show. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know is changing the narrative, please contact us at iChangeTheNarrative@gmail.com. We love to share your story. Meet us here in 2021 in January at 1:00 Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all soon.